They've just been called out. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Turns out that laptop, well, we know it was not fake, but things are even worse than we thought. Breaking today, new records prove that Hunter Biden was out there begging the State Department for help for that company that he represented, Burisma, the now defunct energy company, natural gas company, while his dad was head of Ukraine policy as Vice President of the United States of America. How do you like that? I mean, this is exactly what we were pointing to, right? So the New York Times, finally, they come out with this news telling us that Hunter Biden sought State Department help for the Ukrainian company. After President Biden, quote, dropped his re-election bid, his administration released records showing that while he was vice president, his son solicited U.S. government assistance. Now, this is kind of important, right? Because he lied to us and lied to us and lied to us some more, as did the entire Democrat establishment. So they had these records. They knew this was there, and they didn't release them until now. They didn't release them until now because, you see, well, they didn't want to. They were trying to get him re-elected. Let me quote from the article. Hunter Biden sought assistance from the U.S. government for a potentially lucrative energy project in Italy while his father was vice president. The records, which the Biden administration has withheld for years, indicate that Hunter Biden wrote at least one letter to the U.S. ambassador to Italy in 2016, seeking assistance for the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, where he was a board member. A board member to the tune of some $80,000 a month, which is absolutely unheard of. No one has a board gig like that. Let me just tell you, right? Like, I've been a business reporter my whole career. There are no board jobs that pay upwards of $600,000, I guess, unless you are the son of the vice president in charge of Ukraine policy. That's your ticket. That's your ticket. And he took it. Embassy officials appear to have been uneasy with the request from the son of the sitting vice president on behalf of a foreign company. I would think, quote, I want to be careful about promising too much, wrote a Commerce Department official based in the U.S. Embassy in Rome, who was tasked, lucky person, with responding to this. Quote, this is a Ukrainian company, and purely to protect ourselves, USG should not be actively advocating with the government of Italy without the company going through the DOC Advocacy Center. And so they're talking about basically, U.S. government and Department of Commerce program, DOC, that supports American companies that seek business with foreign governments. I mean, wow. According to Hunter Biden's lawyer, his client, quote, asked various people, including the U.S. ambassador to Italy at the time, John R. Phillips, whether they could arrange an introduction between Burisma and the president of the Tuscany region of Italy, where Burisma was pursuing a geothermal project. Quote, no meeting occurred, no project materialized, no request for anything in the U.S. was ever sought, and only an introduction in Italy was requested. So then why were they holding back on this? Why did they not want to release this? A White House spokesperson said that the president was not aware when he was vice president that his son was reaching out to the U.S. Embassy in Italy on behalf of Burisma. Goodness gracious. Here's the problem. Hunter Biden never registered as a foreign agent. He's out there working as a lobbyist, trying to get the U.S. to kind of help or sanction something for another company in Ukraine to do something in Italy. Now, granted, they're going to say, well, it wasn't in the U.S. I don't care. This is how Hunter's making his living, you see, because he gets somebody from the U.S. to maybe write a letter or arrange an introduction, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is why people have to register as foreign agents. Kellyanne Conway just did, incidentally, right? Because she's doing some work on behalf of Ukraine. That's the right thing to do. It's the proper thing to do. But apparently Hunter Biden, we know he doesn't believe in the right or proper thing to do. Just look at his family, for goodness sakes. I mean that. I mean, just pretty despicable behavior on his part. So they never actually added that charge. Remember when he was charged with all the violations, et cetera? There was the tax issue and the gun issue. But why didn't they actually charge him with violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which requires people to disclose? If you're getting paid for something like this, that's what's called lobbying. And you actually have to report that. And he never did. And that's what's kind of bonkers. I mean, and it goes further. It wasn't just Ukraine, it was Romania as well. I mean, there was the China stuff. For goodness sakes, my head explodes just thinking about it. And somehow this was all A-okay because you know what? They were never going to release these records. Joe Biden was not going to allow this to be known, and the Democrats went along with it. So now finally, now that he's not running again, now we get to find out. Kamala, that's on you too. I mean, you are so much a part of this. And it's scary to think that they're going to continue to hide so much truth. I mean, we're at a critical time. I would say that, as a nation, we need to think about what the ramifications and consequences would be if Donald Trump doesn't win. Because that means you get Kamala with her fake headlines, the whole CIA apparatus basically willing to do whatever is necessary to continue to get their people in various spots that they want. I mean, I'm thinking again about the laptop and the 51X spooks, et cetera. That tells you a lot, guys. It tells you a lot. And so what happens when we go down this path? I mean, already we've seen this tremendous stifling, if you would, of freedom of speech, and they're just happy to do it. Did you see how distressed, how upset these reporters were at the idea that X might get a shot of having a 2-hour conversation with the former president of the United States, who happens to be at the top of the GOP ticket? Oh my gosh, there was like bedlam in the White House press area the other day because, well, this one reporter put it all out there. And I don't know how this guy calls himself a journalist. I'll just say, I've played you this clip before. I got to play it again because it's symptomatic of everyone in the media right now. Let's cue this one up, Drew.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to tune in. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that? Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here, about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too. But look, it is. I think it is incredibly important to call that out as you're doing. I just don't have any specifics on what we have been doing internally as it relates to the interviews. Not something that I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president's not tracking it.
So think about that, guys. If we see a continuation of more of this, where does that leave us? In a pretty bad spot, I would say. A very bad spot. Our First Amendment under fire. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I really appreciate what the folks over at Project 2025 are trying to do. It's getting a bad rep for whatever reason because, well, that's what the media wants to do. And somehow now everybody's jumped on the bandwagon to attack these guys. This is put together by the folks over at the Heritage Foundation, and there's some really good ideas. They're really, really good policy ideas about how to take us forward in terms of our energy, in terms of our education for our kids, in terms of our economy, and trying to do what we can to encourage innovation while stifling the inflation that has been so rampant and has hurt so many people. And so I encourage you to go take a look at this right now to get the truth, right? You need to know the truth. 25truth.com, 25truth.com. That is the handle. Again, wonderful, smart group of people. And they've put together this wonderful body of legislation that could actually work really well to help get rid of some of the, the deep state and a few other things along the way that have become so problematic here in the United States of America now and really do threaten our foundation of who we are as a country. So I encourage you, go right now, go check them out, 25truth.com. There's a lot of good there. There's a lot of good no matter what people are trying to tell you. Remember that. And we do have a lot of inflation. I mean, you saw the headline today is CPI. I get it. Okay, it's down from March 2021. But again, this stuff is cumulative. And that matters. So if you're trying to think about diversification in your portfolio, you should. You should. And I would encourage you to take a look at gold. One of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show is American Hartford Gold. You can go to trishlovesgold.com right now, trishlovesgold.com today to learn more information. And by the way, here's the good part. They're offering up to $15,000 in free silver. Just text them. Text my name, Trish, Trish, to 65532, Trish to 65532, or call them at 1-844-495-1115 today to get up to $15,000 in free silver. Great group. We just had Max Baker, the CEO, on the program yesterday. I'm over the weekend going to release that interview so you can see a little bit more. He's got a very good understanding, obviously, as he would, of what is moving the gold markets right now. And it goes from everything to the central banks, right, that are trying to diversify themselves away from the U.S. and U.S. Treasuries. So they're buying gold. You got people that are looking at it saying, wait a second, okay, they got $35 trillion and counting in debt there in the United States of America. And so investors are buying gold. And then there's just sort of the basic issue of the constant inflation. I mean, I don't care if we get back to 2.5%, which what I would love, by the way. 2% would be great. 2.5% I'd even take. The reality, though, is every single year, right, inflation keeps moving up. So help diversify with gold today.